नमस्कार, कैसे हैं आप? बड़े थिन लग रहे हैं, क्या बात है? वेरी सेलेक्ट आई थिंक, वेरी। चलिए हम शुरू करते हैं. वी आर ऑलरेडी a little bit late. So welcome to this very special gathering today, where we are going to have two presentations. The subject matters of which are of great interest to us. Though this is related to essentially culture, I think we should look at culture in a strategic sense. Now, that is what at VIF we try to do. Today we talk about India. When we talk about India, we talk about India's image, India's comprehensive national strength, and so on. तो उसमें हार्ड पावर और सॉफ्ट पावर दोनों का सम्मिश्रण बहुत जरूरी है, समन्वय बहुत जरूरी है. हम लोगों ने अपना सॉफ्ट पावर को थोड़ा इग्नोर किया हुआ है. While we talk a lot about our culture, but we have never tried to really leverage it. So how should we do that? That is, I think, a question in itself. So we have these two very interesting presentations today. One on Ramayana in ASEAN by Dr. Shashi Bala, and other one on Buddhist art and its role in cultural unity by Masooma Rizvi, who is a Dr. Shashi Bala is a Dean Center of Indology in Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan. And I have in front of me a 23-page CV, but that shows that how much work she has already done. Publications में इनके सिर्फ 18 ही लिखे हैं, लेकिन उन्होंने कहा कि research paper इनके 64 हैं, so which is all listed. So she has worked a lot in this area. So some of one or two publications which have been mentioned in our CV are Sanskrit grammatical text from Indonesia. That was our MPhil dissertation. Assimilation of Vedic deities in Japanese art, PhD thesis. Comparative study of Tattva Sangraha. बहुत कम है आपके लिए. The way we have planned it, but anyway, you'll make some interesting points, and I'll speak about the next presentation when you could kindly start. Yeah. Thank you.
Respected Dr. Arvind Gupta ji, all the esteemed scholars in this gathering, and friends. Talking about Ramayana as in ASEAN countries as a cultural link gives me immense pleasure, and I'm thankful to the Vivekananda International Foundation for inviting me to present very briefly about this subject. India has contributed immensely linking countries across cultures. Whether it's Asian countries in Southeast Asia or East Asia or West Asia, or then you can go to Europe. And in the modern times, it's the Indians who have traveled abroad. So when we talk about Ramayana here, especially the ASEAN countries, Ramayana became a great epic of all the Asian countries. When I look at the Ramayana heritage preserved and promoted by these countries, I think it's like it's not just a heritage, but we talk about this commonwealth. It's a common heritage. And the way they have promoted, sometimes I feel we haven't done to that extent. Ramayana became a source of cultural, political, social values for all these countries. How it became, how it reached there, when it went there, who took it, and how do we find it today? These are the, I think, major questions that I would like to focus on. Looking at the ASEAN countries, the How it reached there, it's a question that has not been answered so far. Because some people say that it was traders who took Ramayana with them. There are some scholars who say after the Kalinga war, a large number of people migrated from south of India towards these countries. Then there were princes who went there. There are many reasons. And how do we find it? What are the documents on which we say that this is the earliest document to trace the history of Ramayana found in these countries? It is the inscriptional evidence, and then it's the panels normally on temples, whether it's Cambodia or Indonesia. So I think I will take country by country to remain brief. And all these countries created their own versions of Ramayana. And their focus was always different than what we have in India. They took Rama more as an incarnation of Vishnu, because Vishnu is the sustainer of the world, and the kings of these countries accepted the messages of Ramayana for following the messages of Ramayana as has been given, or they ruled actually as incarnations of Rama, or we can say Vishnu. So I'll come to Cambodia later on, and all of them created their own versions from time to time, but their versions are different and are based on different versions in India. Even one scholar in Thailand, he said, the first Ramayana that went to Southeast Asian countries was pre-Valmiki. It's a very difficult question to answer, because what was there in India before Valmiki? There is one who says that their Ramayana is more based on the Prakrit version. So there are many questions also that are not been answered. So in Sri Lanka, poet Kumaradasa, he wrote Janaki Haran in 6th century. And later on, it became a source of literary writings in Sri Lanka, and there are many novels. 6th century AD. 6th century AD. First of all, if I talk about Cambodia, Cambodian Ramayana is called Ramakirti. The earliest depiction of Ramayana starts from the time of Jayavarman II. And if I talk, there are so many temples in Cambodia where you will see panels based on the stories of Ramayana and Mahabharata engraved on the walls of the temples. There are many important temples, but mostly people know about Angkor Wat. So let me talk about Angkor Wat first. Angkor Wat was built by Suryavarman II, and because he came to power after fighting many wars, and there are a number of panels based on Ramayana and Mahabharata engraved on the walls of Angkor Wat. He depicted himself as an incarnation of Vishnu. So there are many panels based on of Vishnu, you can say. For example, churning of ocean is done under the aegis of Vishnu. Then Vishnu invites many gods for fighting Devasur Sangram. So there also, and then there are panels of Ramayana and the story of Krishna. So he shows himself as an incarnation of Rama. And most of the panels are selected from battles, because battles fought in Ramayana, they are depicted as their own stories. For example, the Kurukshetra war of Mahabharata. So that is also depicted as a war fought by Suryavarman. So the war between Rama and Ravana, it is also there. And there it became Ramayana actually became a repository of culture. There are so many manuscripts, and in Cambodia is the only country where such a large number of Sanskrit manuscripts are discovered. More than 12,000 Sanskrit manuscripts are discovered from Cambodia. And in some of them, it is written that copies of Ramayana, Mahabharata, and Puranas, and also Manusmriti, were taken from India for recitation, for chanting in the temples. So chanting of these temples used to resonate with the sounds of Ramayana. Mm. If you come to Indonesia, the earliest documents that we find in Indonesia are the panels engraved on the temple of Prambanan. Again, 9th century. Prambanan, here I would like to draw your attention on how it begins. It begins with Vishnu again lying on Sheshnaga. So it's Sheshashai Vishnu as creator of the world, from where the story begins on the walls of Prambanan. And the same happens in Thailand also. You see, when we talk about linkages, then it's not just that India is linked with these countries. These countries are linked because of Ramayana among themselves also. So something similar you will find in Thailand also. The Sheshai Vishnu is the first panel in Ramayana. There are other temples also. For example, I would like to quote about Chandi Panataran. Chandi Panataran and Chandi Brahmanan, I'm not going into the details of the techniques and styles and all these things. And the earliest inscription where Rama is referred is the inscription of Kangal, that is from 8th century, 732 AD. Then we have to talk about the names of the rivers and cities in all these countries. If you talk about Indonesia, Yogyakarta. Yogyakarta, actually, the original pronunciation, sometimes people call it Jogya. Sometimes we will call it Yogyakarta. So it comes from Ayodhya. Ayodhya becomes Ga-Yogya. Ga-Yogya, Ga becomes, because it is written by G, so it becomes Jogja. And Krita becomes Karta. So Yogyakarta. There are, for example, rivers, Saryu and Praga. Then there is one city called Situ Bandha. It comes from Setu Bandha. Then there is one city called Kishkinda. So it comes from Kishkinda. Then they wrote their own Ramayana also, and that they say that the Ramayana by Valmiki is not the basis of Ramayana Kakavin. It is called Ramayana Kakavin. Ramayana Kakavin was written in 10th century. In all these countries, they used to have literary festivals, celebrate the achievement, extraordinary literary achievements were celebrated, and it is called this is Shastrotsava. They used to have in Cambodia also. There is history about it, and in Indonesia also. So the earliest written record from Indonesia is Ramayana Kakavin. It is written in Javanese. Javanese is the old script of Java. It is difficult to say what was the source of this Ramayana. There are many different kinds of opinions about it, but definitely not Valmiki Ramayana. It's not agreed. Then in 19th century, they wrote Serat Ramayana. Indonesia is a almost not 100%, but except Bali, mostly Muslim country. But how they play Ramayana, how they have made Ramayana as a part of their cultural life, how they derive moral values, social values, family values, it's amazing. And also the way it has been performed. If you go to Prambanan, I would like to suggest you go to Prambanan sometime near Purnima, on Purnima, or one day before Purnima, or one day after Purnima. How they perform it at Prambanan. In the courtyard of Prambanan, I will show you just a few slides from there. It's such a huge stage, that is the courtyard of Prambanan, that is used, and 200 or 300 these performers come together dancing. So it's amazing, it's mesmerizing the way they do it. And in all the countries there are some interpolations and some variations also. For example, when I'm talking about the performance of Ramayana in Indonesia, in Java, all of them are Muslim, but they say dharma and culture are two different things. They don't combine them, because Ramayana is more a cultural text. It's not, it has nothing to do with religion. It's not a religious text, and it has been proved by many, not by me but by so many. So for example, when Sita was giving this, was asked for Agni Pariksha, so there they perform it so beautifully that around more than 100, or maybe around 200, they all come. The dancers come in a way that these garments are just fluttering. You don't see anything, just fluttering of beautiful garments, and they may look like flames of fire. And in between comes the fire god, and he says, it is not that Sita is put to test, but it is fire god. It is fire that is purified, because Sita today entered it. There is, for example, if you go to Indonesia, you will say that Hanuman is of white color, because in India now we don't have white color Hanuman. There is a story that when he leaves Anjani Mata, Mother Anjani, and he asks, how will I know that who is my master? She says, whosoever will ask you why you are white, then that will be your master. So there are many such stories in all these countries. And another thing is that their customs and manners, the social customs and manners, are adopted according to their own styles. It's not that everything is Indian. It's the major story that is of Ramayana, but other things are their own. Flora and fauna, whatever this show, it's their own. Now, I would like to say a few words about Thailand. One of the princes who wrote a research paper on Ramayana in Thailand, he says that their Ramayana is based on a version that is older than Valmiki. I have a question there because I don't have an answer. So he says that there was an oral version that was prevalent during the Sri Vijaya kingdom, and that is called Praputhayajya. This is what he says, and he says possibly it was written sometime in 13th century, but because it was oral, so we have nothing to just prove it. And in the 18th century, the Rama one, you see, all the kings of Chakri dynasty, even the last one who passed away, was the ninth king, ninth Rama, the king of Chakri dynasty. His name was, if I tell you the Sanskrit name, it's Bhumi Bala Atula Teja, although the pronunciation is different. So that king in 1798, he wrote a long narrative that is called Ramkain. But Ramkain is so different from Valmiki Ramayana. In Valmiki Ramayana, it is divided into kandas. But this Ramayana, Ramkain, is a long narration without being divided into different kandas. Then it has. It seems when you look at this Ramayana, it seems that there is so much about musical directions that it means that it was specially written for performance. This Ramkain is divided into, broadly speaking, into three parts. The first part, again, as I said, is based on Vishnu, because Rama is the incarnation of Vishnu, and it is taken, the episode that is there is taken from, accepted, it is taken from Varaha Purana. So all the battle scenes, they have long speeches in Ramkane, though that long speeches are not there in Valmiki Ramayana. So I just tell you one story about what is the difference between Ramayana in India and Ramayana in Thailand. Dashakantha Ravana, because he had 10 heads, so he's called Dashakantha. So Dashakantha become Toshkant in Thailand, and magically he makes his niece looking like Sita, and she goes afloat waters disguised as Sita. She afloats so that Rama could see and he could think, oh, Sita has gone. So Rama can raise the siege and he is protected. Then that story is not there in our Ramayana. There is one more variation, that is a fight between Hanuman and Neel. Because according to Valmiki Ramayana, Nal and Neel were the two engineers who built the bridge between India and Sri Lanka for going. But here they say there was a fight between Hanuman and Neel goes away, which didn't happen here, not according to, because in India also, if you compare the Ramayana from north and south, from east and west, there are so many variations. Now I would like to talk about a little bit about laws. You see, Ramayana, we are talking about in ASEAN countries, most of them, except some that are populated by mostly by Muslims, but most of them are Buddhist. And the values given by Buddhism are so well accepted by the people, and on the other side, they are accepting the values given by Ramayana. There is no conflict at all. I was just thinking when I was that I have to talk here about Ramayana, then I was thinking it is a real samvad between the Buddhism and Hinduism, because the same person, for example, the Thai king, he is Buddhist, but all the rituals are Hindu. There is a Hindu Rajguru in Thai royal family. There is a Hindu Rajguru in Cambodia also. So all the rituals and ceremony, and also Ramayana plays a place of very important role in these countries. So Laos, Lava Desha. Actually, Laos was it's a name given later, but actually it is Lava Desha, and it is the only country where we have found a statue of Valmiki of 7th century. I will show you one statue of Valmiki from Ellora caves from India, and maybe there are more, but I'm not sure about Southeast Asian countries, about about any statue of Valmiki or Vyasa in these countries. But they have so much respect. When I was there in the royal family, and they were showing me some manuscripts of Sanskrit written in old Javanese script. So there were some, you can say, variations, or you can say errors. And when I started speaking, I said Vyasa. They were so angry with me. They said, no, he's Bhagavan Vyasa, not just Vyasa. So this is the respect. This is how they respect Valmiki and Vyasa. So in Laos, it is in all over in Southeast Asia, in Thailand, or in Laos, in Cambodia, in Myanmar. They take some portions, some stories from Ramayana for their songs, for dancing, for painting, and festivities. The most important panels of Ramayana are found in Luang Prabang, and there is a Natyashala in Vientiane. These are the two places where we find these beautiful paintings of Ramayana. In Burma also. So countries are Buddhist, but they recite, there are recitation, there used to be, I'm not sure about recently, I have not been there recently, but in Laos there used to be a festival of Ramayana chanting. In Indonesia, in Bali also, I was there in their Bali art festival. So they used to organize every year a festival of chanting Ramayana, and there used to be competitions also. So it became a source of moral, a basis of moral values and practical, this code of life, you can say, and it's more emotional and artistic for them. Mostly mighty kings, they want to portray themselves as Rama, so they want to show that politically, as Rama was powerful, we are also. Recently, when our government had a festival of Ramayana from the ASEAN countries, I met one artist from, I think he was from Philippines, or I don't remember, I'm not sure, but he was playing the role of Rama. He said, I respect Rama so much. I'm playing Rama, but I don't like him. I said, what happened? Why don't you like him? He said, because he treated his wife so badly. So these are the emotions also. So, and here also I would like to draw your attention to one deviation from the main story that we know in India, that finally, when after the war, Rama is given a boat to return, to come back India. That we don't have. He, according to us, he comes back by Pushpak Viman. So, but there he says, they say. So, now I would like to say a few words about Myanmar. When and how again Ramayana became had a pride place in the life of Myanmar. It's difficult to say, but because they also had a oral tradition. But the earliest reference is given to King Anavrat. His date is 11th century, 1044 to 77. He was the first. He is said to be the founder of the empire of Myanmar, and there are many archaeological and historical and literary evidences from Myanmar. The best I would like to say are the panels of Ramayana from Old Pagan. Vishnu, there is a Vishnu temple also as Na Klong Kyong. That also has stone figures of Rama and Parshurama. Parshurama statues is, I think, very difficult to find in other countries. So there are Jataka stories, and also they have Ramayana. According to one story, King Kangzita, one of the kings of Myanmar, he said that he was in his earlier life, he was a close relative of Lord Rama of Ayodhya. Ayodhya played a very important role in all these countries. For example, the prince of Korean was married to a princess from Ayodhya, and they accepted. Historically, they said yes. And the princess of Ayodhya, who went by ship, she took some stones with her for building a temple, and though where the seashore, where she landed first, those stones are still lying there. There are many interesting stories. I'm not going into the details of those stories, but the memories of the teachers of India who traveled abroad for all these beautiful texts. There are texts not just religious, they are scientific, they are sacred, secular, both. So, Ramayana plays an important role in all the literary achievements of these countries and the context with other countries. They also sent, it also became, although it's today's culture, even in today's culture, the so called pop culture, they still derive inspiration from the stories of Ramayana. Then I would like to talk a little bit about China also. There are two versions of Ramayana found from China, although it's I'm just going beyond my subject, but just a brief reference to it. That there is one that is the Monkey King novel of a Monkey King, very popular, very close to Hanuman stories, and the other is Dashrath Jataka. And there also they have found Ramayana written in Khotanese, and one Ramayana in Tibetan has also been discovered from China, from the Dunhuang caves. So I think suddenly, you see, it was there was a break in all these things, people traveling and Indians going abroad for Buddhism or from Ramayana or for carrying text and all these things. Abruptly, many things, many cities, many kingdoms were ransacked after the invasions by Kublai Khan. So for example, the city of Ayodhya in Thailand, called Ayutthaya, it was ransacked by the Burmese. So there are many kinds of destructions in all these countries. For example, in Vietnam, there were so many temples, so many Ramayana scenes, so many things were there. But suddenly there was a Chinese invasion, and most of their temples were destroyed, and the main statues were taken away. Normally, what happens? The main statue is of gold or silver, and the others are more normally bronze or something. But when it's war, then anybody can do anything, so they took away. And what happened after that, the king of Champa, who was in India at the time when Chinese invaded, and when he went there, he collapsed. He even passed away. He had what did he have? I don't know whether it was a heart attack or heart failure, or what was that, but it was such a big shock for him. So, with this a brief introduction, I would like to show you a few slides. This is a statue of Valmiki from Ellora Caves. It's around, people say that it is 8th century, but I think it's much earlier. There is, on the other side is the statue of Vyasa. And this is the panel of Ramayana again from Ellora, because in India we find very few things engraved like this on walls. This is Prambanan, Yogyakarta, Indonesia. Largest temple dedicated to Shiva. The central shrine is dedicated to Shiva, and on the two sides are, one is Vishnu, one is the temple of Brahma, and the Ramayana is engraved on the walls of the central shrine. Here you can see the central shrine, and it continues to the other temple, and on the Brahma temple is the Krishna legend. Here you can see monkeys carrying stones for building the Setu. Here you can see Ravana sitting and trying to shake Mount Kailasa. And on the top you can see Shiva sitting. On one side is Parvati, on the other side is that's it, Kamadeva. So this is Rama's archery, you can see, from Angkor Wat. This is again from Angkor Wat, how this Ravana is taking away Sita, abducting Sita. This is a manuscript of Ramayana. There are many manuscripts discovered from these countries. This is very important. This is one of the very important manuscripts. It continues. The tradition of writing these palm leaf manuscripts still continue. One manuscript of Ramayana I had brought in 1984 from a village from Bali. This is, you can see, Ordeal of Sita. See, Lord God of Agni appears and says, "Oh, now today this Agni is purified because Devi Sita has entered it." This is a painting. This is Bali Sugriv, a fight between Bali and Sugriv. This is from another temple in Cambodia. Its name is Banteis Rai. Banteis Rai is not as big as Angkor Wat, but this is a beautiful temple, beautiful. And these panels are very well preserved. This is a modern painting and a puppet of Hanuman. In the first, you can see it's Rama shooting an arrow on a deer who is running, and in the back you can see the Prambanan, one of the central shrines of Prambanan, and the other is the leather puppet. Wayang is a very popular style of art in most of these countries. This is from Indonesia. It's shadow play because it's do I need to describe how they make it. These are leather puppets. Here we do with threads, but the technique is different. So they have small, you can see sticks attached to this different parts of the body of the puppet, and there are holes all over the leather puppet, and from there on the one side they put a lamp, so the shadow of this puppet can be shown on the screen, and on the other side people sit and look at enjoy this wayang shadow puppet play. This is another painting again from Indonesia. It's modern. Here you can see Hanuman giving the ring to Devi Sita. This is a scene from Prambanan. It's modern. I just was there 2 years ago. So you can see how big is the stage. It's not the entire stage, which is just a part of that. Here you can see burning of Lanka by Hanuman. This is from Thailand. This is again from Prambanan. Rama shooting an arrow from the walls of Prambanan. It's 9th, 10th century. This is Rama, Lakshman and Sita. It's a modern engraving. It was there on the airport, but I didn't see it last time. It was there at the airport of Jakarta. This is from Thailand, from the royal palace. From the entire Rama and Ramayana story has been beautifully painted on the walls of the royal palace. These are the dolls of Hanuman and the golden deer. These are puppets from Malaysia, also from Malaysia. Now you can see how there is a lamp behind, and you can see on the screen the shadows. This is Ramayana from in Tibetan language, from discovered from the Dunhuang caves of China. This is a page of Ramayana, Dashrath Jataka, from the Tripitaka, from Chinese Tripitaka. So with these words, I thank you very much. Thank you.
I think most of us are educated, and also this delightful slides. A lot of thinking. Also, make you think how they reached there.
I will finish in time. I don't know.
No, बहुत बढ़िया किया. Okay. So we'll come to the discussion a little bit later. Now I request Masooma Rizvi to make our presentation, Buddhist Art and its role in cultural unity. Masooma ji is a conservationist she's an artist, and she's in touch with a large number of artists. She has, some of you who have visited this one, what is it called? Pravasi Bharat, the Bhavan, which has all been done by her. It's one of the outstanding buildings to go, and she has done the interior decoration for that. And some of the paintings that are there are probably as beautiful as you will see anywhere. and she looks at various themes of from Indian scriptures and also Buddhism, etc. So I came to know her a little bit in the NSCS days. When we got one small thing done on it was the Samudra Manthan. She did a painting for us on our walls there. So she's also a scholar in her own right, and she's working on conservation, I think. But since she is an artist, and I think she studied in USA, and maybe you can talk a little bit about yourself, and then we can have a.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Good evening to all of you. I'm Masooma Rizvi. Thank you, sir, for what you have to say, and esteemed Gupta, sir, ma'am, and all distinguished guests. I know I'm amongst very educated, knowledgeable, and distinguished people. I'm an architect from University of California, Berkeley, and I have done my master's in art in Paris. Now I'm pursuing my PhD in conservation of fine arts, and I want to bring in laws in our country to safeguard our heritage. All my interiors is Manekshaw Center, Pravasi Bharatiya Kendra. I do a lot of work in Rajasthan, and I do a lot of museums. I look after the Deen Dayal museums in the country. I conceptualize them, and I've done 48 museums. So this is the introduction that I have to give. My presentation today is going to be in a very layman's language, and an education into why I feel Buddhist art can actually foster cultural unity and world peace. Vasudeva Kutumbakam, the core of our culture as shaped by our rishis, revolves around this principle. How are we all connected? If it is one large family, we are all connected by our culture. Thus, culture is the most important aspect of our country. And what is this culture? How do we hand it down generations? How is it tangible? Because culture means various things to various people. This abstract and intangible aspect of culture is expressed through art, an outlet for thoughts, for feelings, beliefs. Every art form has impact, it has meaning, and captures these intangibles, abstracts, into something a layperson can understand. Art is about talking, feeling, emotions. You react to art. When I bought an art piece, my husband turned around and said, तुमने इसके लिए actually पैसे दिए? Because it was just 4 lines. And I was going crazy when I curated for Razaji, and I was going crazy with that little bindu he sketched on a A4 size paper for me. And my son was like, Mom, I could do a better job. Though art is so relative, even then, art with messages transcends generations. This intangible, when it turns into an understanding medium, it becomes a visual, pictorial story of a reminder of our lives, of our beliefs, of our religion, of our traditions, of our mythology, of our culture. It is a very easy medium to understand. It's like laughter. It's like sorrow. हम सब एक ही लैंग्वेज में हंसते हैं. हम सब एक ही लैंग्वेज में रोते हैं. Art too is like that. It can touch you, it can repulse you, you can hate it, you don't want to see it. It can question. And when I talk about art, I don't talk paintings, I talk architecture, I talk sculptures, I talk contemporary art. I talk about every form which represents our culture, our traditions, our stories, our religion, our mythology. It is rooted in history, but, ladies and gentlemen, it is definitely a catalyst for change. We use art to communicate, to educate, to propagate, and finally In this day and age, we use art to unite, to create a common cultural bond which everybody can understand. In 5 slides later on in my presentation, I'm going to explain what I mean. Every slide that I show you, closing your eyes, you would understand what it stands for or why it is there. And not just this August gathering, even children. That is the amazing part of art. It is always there to unite. We are at a point in history where the need for world peace, in all its facets, is paramount. At such a time, it is imperative to remind people of a philosophy that unites a diverse cross section of society from around the world, creating an environment of oneness. Art can be used to build trust around the world and build a new vision of world peace. And Buddhism started in India. So we are the natural leaders or harbingers of world peace through Buddhist art. History has always been influenced by its narrative, and art is a living testimony to this narrative, be it destruction, like in Afghanistan, or be it peace world over. Today, my talk reinforces the belief that through art, emphasizing the spread and exchange of Buddhist culture from India to the world, strengthens, builds, and increases dialogue. The role of Buddhist art in society and peace building is often underestimated in world peace. It's like art. We have to get over this disdain of art and use it to build peace. When Buddhism was born and grew in India, it grew here because it had the space to thrive. And how did it have the space to thrive? Because we were a democracy. Our democracy is that old that we absorb every new idea, even a new culture, even a new philosophy, even a new religion, and we let it grow. That, ladies and gentlemen, is what we are from. And that is why India can talk of propagation of peace through Buddhist art. There are many ways in which different people in different cultures view different things. Like ma'am was just talking about the Ramayana, but the thread is the same. You might view it differently, but the basic remains the same. When I was in America, I grew up there. And my friends used to always tell me, "Oh, we want the color of your skin. We want to tan like your color." They said, "Oh, you're very fair." My husband, who's olive brown, a beautiful Indian shade of brown, he went to Africa. He rang up very amused. And he said, "Do you know what they call me here?" And I said, "Kya?" And he said, "White man." So that is the point I'm trying to make. Our ideas of anything that we view are culturally attuned. Thus, different cultures view everything differently. But when we see the oneness and the cultural oneness of Buddhism and Buddhist art, that defines what I'm going to talk about. That how, when you see something that you're familiar with, you're not resistant. And what better way to do a dialogue of peace than to start on this thread? The most important thing about Buddhism, ladies and gentlemen, as you all know, in my view, that it's not just a religion, it's a way of life, it's a lifestyle. But Hinduism and Buddhism, that is how they have a common thread, that it is like a lifestyle. When I talk about the Bhagavad Gita, I always say it is a lifestyle book. We don't need any lifestyle gurus, we have our own. Buddhism, absolutely, absolutely. And it started and thrived in India only because of it started, and most of the traditions too in Buddhism are similar, or rather same. So it is not culturally bound. It is not bound to any particular society, race, or ethnic group. It has gone to various religions, various regions, and has been absorbed as a philosophy of thought, not as a religion. It moves very easily from one culture to another because the emphasis of Buddhism is on internal practice. It's not the way you dress, the way you eat, it is how you think, how you can bring inner peace. And that peace brings tolerance. So let me start with a basic presentation of what Buddhist art and why it can bring cultural unity. Every slide of mine is something you would have always seen or identified with when you talked about Buddhism. The brief timeline of Buddhist art, we will go into only into the Asian specific zone for paucity of time. And Buddhist art, just how it spread through Asia. Now, let us take a very, very simple architectural pattern in Buddhism. We start with the stupas, and these stupas became very, very elaborate as they moved to different Asian countries and different areas, like the pagodas. You know, when it started in India, like the Bharut stupa or the Ranchi stupa or the Amravati stupa, you couldn't enter them. They were with the relics of the Buddha. Then, as they moved on, you saw the Japanese pagodas. Then you went to the Chinese, the Myanmar. The Japanese and Chinese believed that vertically, as high as the pagoda reached, they could talk to the celestial gods better. And there you could enter in. Whereas in the stupas, we did the paradakshina. And like ma'am said, the paradakshina started and is still practiced by in our mythology. And in our mythology, in Hindu mythology, every goddess has certain steps of the paradakshina. This again is such a common ritual. It's such a common bond because we do it with us, we do it in our culture. The Buddhists do it as well in their culture, in all other countries. The Christians too do it in Jerusalem, and so does the Islamic culture. They too walk around and do a paradakshina. So that is how these cultures are united. And when we talk about the unity of cultures, that is how art brings it through. The wheel of dharma, all the religious symbols that were there, the swastika, the wheel of dharma, the aneoic representations, because before Buddhism, when it started, there were two schools of thought, and one was that Buddha should not be represented, only because they felt somebody who has attained nirvana should not be showcased. So we had the chakras, and today the contemporary art has spread so much. You can see I have put in a little wheel of dharma, the third one below, only to showcase how it is being used as an artifact. So many cars have this today. You go abroad, whenever you go to all the countries abroad, they're doing tattoos. This is a form of culture being spread through art. There are mantras, there are tattoos. This is cultural unity. If every culture is having things which are part of a philosophy, you are in any case creating unity. Another wheel of dharma, which is, I'm sorry, the wheel of existence. This first drawing image was created, it is said, during the life of Buddha and actually under his guidance. Anywhere you go to Tibet, you go to China, you go to any of the countries where you see art, any exhibitions, you will see this wheel of existence, Bharva Chakra. It is in paintings, it is in tankas, it is in fabrics. And they say the interesting legend is that there was a Raja, Bimbisara. He wanted to return a precious gift to another king. He got artists to paint the Buddha, but the glow on Buddha's face was so much that they couldn't look at him. So they looked at his reflection in the water. And that was where they painted. And that is why it is called the form obtained by reflection. It has beautiful stories. It talks about life. It talks about our problems. It talks about the other life. It talks about suffering. Each little segment there has beautiful images. I'm sorry, it's not very clear here, but I'm sure you've seen all of these. Uh, I have to go back. I'm sorry. Will you help me with this, please? The next. Now, this wheel of existence was really important because they say this was the first piece of art which was made when Buddha was alive. Mandalas. These started from the Indian culture, where we have mandalas, all kinds of mandalas. And here in the Tibetan mandalas, there is a divine temple which is comprised of a square enclosed by a circle, the purpose of which was to help focus attention during meditation. You see them in the Chinese culture, in the Japanese culture, you see them in Korean culture and the Tibetan one. When you see this mandala, there is mandala that you see in Indian culture, in Middle Eastern culture, in Christian culture, in Jewish cultures. So again, this becomes such a unifying form of art. The Buddha. We all know the Lakshanas, how the Buddha was made, what the Uma, the way the Buddha is represented. Whether you see it here, whether you study his iconography, whether you go to an Archie store today, everywhere, when you see the Buddha, it brings you joy. You always think that it is a symbol of peace. When you see all these Buddhas that you have seen all over, Buddhism, when it was in Japan, whether it was in Myanmar, whether it reached Korea, whether it is in Angkor Wat, everywhere the Buddhas are there and they are a symbol of peace. People go all over the world and they always go and see these Buddhas. The Amita Buddha is a very interesting 6 feet tall Buddha. And this is what I had exhibited myself in the Met Museum for three times because it is an amazing form of Buddha which is in wood and it is a UCG technique. I'm sorry, my pronunciation is not correct, but the single pieces of wood, they carved little pieces like a jigsaw mosaic puzzle, and then they're all joined internally to create the Buddha. In a jigsaw, you can see it on your table, but here you have to first chant, get purified, and then there are only three such left in the world, and people all over America, in the Met Museum, at one point, this was one of their greatest exhibits. So the Parsidian, the center one where I've written Japan. So it is an amazing piece. Why I showcase it is just to see this one piece. It traveled all over America. Then it went to the UK. And with it, there was this huge charts of iconography and drawings that way. The middle one, sir. This one. D. D. And they said in the Met, ma'am, that when this was showcased, they had the maximum footfall there. It was amazing. It was in Pasadena to start with, and then it went all over America and had maximum views. When you see the shrines of the world, in Buddhism, last year this one opened in Russia, and it again has a maximum number of footfall. And now they are planning to use it in their tourism. If you see the Malaysian, the Japanese, the Singaporean, the Russian, all of them are so similar. The paintings, be it frescoes, murals, fabrics, whether it is Ajanta Ellora, whether it is Sri Lanka, Japan, China, all of them are so beautiful that they have a common thread. They are like the Jataka tales, and yet they can be kept anywhere in any home. They can be revered, they can be pieces of art, they can be put as beautiful pieces all around. Thus, every form of Buddhist art can be used to create social and cultural unity. It's beautiful, it has a message of peace. And last but not the least, there is this scholar, Su Ziulon. I hope my pronunciation is right. And she has translated so many Japanese scriptures, uh, Sanskrit scriptures into Japanese and into poetry. And it was so amazing that when one heard her talk, she could read fluent Sanskrit, and she learned Sanskrit only so she could translate these Upanishads into poetry. I think this is the best form of cultural unity that one can see. Martin Luther King once said, "We have only two choices: to coexist peacefully or to destroy ourselves." In reality, all of us, I think, want peace and happiness. Peace as in Shanti. Whatever the cultural root, whatever the philosophy, whatever the religion, if there is a factor which can bind us, it is art, and especially Buddhist art, because it is everywhere. A small example, when you go for a party or a birthday or you want to gift somebody, a Buddha, laughing Buddha, normal Buddha from Archie's, from a museum, you just pick it up because it gives you happiness. It has the right vibes. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is art. And that is how they say art binds. So we just need to accept what draws us close and not what tears us apart. And even if it is a very small thing, a small aspect to world peace, it is still there. So let's try using art and Buddhist art and move forward towards peace. Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you had two excellent presentations, and both giving very positive messages. And of course, they delighted us with the beautiful slides and very wonderful introductions. So, I open the floor for question, answers, comments, discussions. Yeah.
It's not a question. I only want to supplement a small point to what Madam Sachiwala said about Ramayana. Way back in 1987, when I was undergoing National Defense College course, I had gone with a group of officers to Indonesia. We went to Jakarta, Bali after 3-4 days. In our last evening dinner, I asked a gentleman who was our equivalent of cultural secretary and HRD secretary, a very senior officer. So I told him that I'm surprised you are a Muslim majority country, predominantly Muslim country, but why there's so much of predominance of Ramayana and Rama in everything, whether it's literature, art, culture, drama, everywhere. What he said, even after 31 years, I can't forget that. He said that you people see Rama as a god. We don't see Rama as a god. We see Rama as, and I was surprised that Muslim gentleman, the word that used, he said, we see Rama as what you call Maryada Purushottam, ideal human being. So we, even in the educational curriculum, we put Rama because we want our children to know what an ideal human being should be, what a role model of human being should be. I felt very happy to hear that. Thank you.
is there. In Thailand, even the second Ramayana, the second version of Ramayana, written by a Thai king, is a part of the curriculum, school education. It's a part of school education, and everywhere you go, it's I think it's a part. They draw inspiration to be ideal human beings as Hanuman, as a source of Maryada Purusham. That is why you see, I said that all the kings of Thailand they ruled as Rama of the Chakri dynasty from first to ninth. Last one was ninth, King Rama nine. So they want to be as rule as Rama ruled. Maryada Purushottam. Yeah, please.
Uh, Dr. Bala, in your talk, the initial impression that I got, I need you to throw some light on that, is that particularly in Cambodia and also in Indonesia, it seems there is an attempt to distance Ramayana from its origins in India by claiming it to predate Valmiki, or even when you go to Cambodia, for instance, if you go to Angkor Wat, you see that all the statues of Vishnu have been replaced by statues of Buddha. So, as things stand today, I would, because it seems there is an effort to create their own legends around Ramayana. How do we use it, as Dr. Gupta was saying, to leverage it as a part of our soft power strategy? How do we emphasize these links without bringing in the differences, whether it's Vishnu and Buddha, or delinking of Ramayana from India?
You see, deviations are natural. As I said, if you look at Ramayana, different versions of Ramayana, even in India itself, there are so many differences. If you look at Mahabharata, Dr. Raghuvira, father of Professor Lokesh Chandra, he tried to edit Ramayana and Mahabharata both. And he collected a number of versions from different parts of India. And finally, he left the project because it was almost impossible to edit Ramayana and Mahabharata because there are so many variations. It is not just Pathantar, it's not just a small differences here and there. Mahabharata, just one third of Mahabharata is the same in India. The rest of the story are all percolations and additions and deletions and all these things. So it is not how we are different. The major story is the same. Additional things, the details of the stories, maybe they are talking about, they take it as their own and they make their own stories. For example, if you talk about Mahabharata, there are so many texts based on Mahabharata written in Indonesia in Old Javanese. For example, Bharatiya, Arjuna Vivaha. They have taken different parts of Mahabharata and have written their own literature about it. So deviations are not so important. Similarities are more important because they are all based on Ramayana. Whether it starts from the life of Rama, or it starts from or it starts from Vishnu, it doesn't. I think it's more. I think we can say we are more linked, and we can say, and we should work on it about the similarities. Yeah, please.
Pratibha Prahlad is my name, and I happen to be a professional Bharatanatyam dancer. I'm also the festival director of Delhi International Arts Festival. For the last 11 years, I've been curating it. I'm a performer, choreographer, educator, scholar, teacher, writer, author. And like I said, I'm the founder, festival director of Delhi International Arts Festival. And we try, like you said, to brand India and Indian arts and Indian culture on a global platform. So while in the last, we're talking about the last, 4, 5 centuries, decades, while we are looking for linkages and talking about our influence on Southeast Asia or South Asia or anywhere else, those countries are not looking back to us to establish those linkages. And that really is the problem that we have with our own, enhancement or propagation of our civilization and our civilizational treasures like Ramayana or Buddhism, which is also an Indian civilizational treasure because it takes its birth from our land. Our problem, as you know, our problem with most of our scholarship has been that we've been traveling to those countries and looking for iconography or some sort of literature or some palm leaves where we can say, yeah, so this is Rama, that is Sita, this is who's having Agni Pariksha, but they have not come back to us. But let me tell you one thing. I travel a lot, not just in South Asia, but all over the world for many major festivals. And whenever I performed, wherever, and we had any artistic group from Philippines or Malaysia, Indonesia especially, because Bali is particularly Hindu in its outlook. When they see images, dance, Sanskrit shloks, happening like it happens in Bharatanatyam, they have fallen at my feet and called me Shiva, they've called me Parvati, they've said, you are our goddess. And I said, I am only a dancer, of this century. I'm not that goddess or that, that God, the supreme God. But they do have that yearning, that kind of a feeling of wanting to connect with our land. But we ourselves have given up studies of our own culture and civilization. So we do not have enough people who can form those linkages at their level and be strategic about it and take it forward and see that they accept that the roots of their aspiration, inspiration, their that, what do you call it, that longing for connectivity is with us. So we are really the source of all that they yearn for and they want to be, but we have not been able to be strategic about it because, like we said, we like go as travelers and we just look for our own little imagery here and there, like we look in Angkor Wat or we look in Indonesia or in Swan. So yes and no to your questions, and we have to think about it and be smart about it, to be strategic about it, to be intelligent about it. And I had given a paper of having last year when I realized that ASEAN country leaders would be invited for the Republic Day parade. I had given a paper to the Prime Minister's office, which then got passed on to MEA and to MOC, on the influence of Ramayana in ASEAN countries and how we could have a festival, a colloquium, conversations built around it, and how we could take them to our places, where we could have these conversations. Maybe not, have the festival in Delhi and then have these serious colloquiums and imagery, because there are many Ramayanas, like you said. There are Sitayana, there's Hanuman. What you did not mention, Dr. Bala, which I was actually keen to listen to you, and I would like to, is that the central piece of these Ramayanas are different in different countries. Like in our story, our Rama is our hero. But in the Sri Lankan story, Ravana is their real hero. In the Thai Ramayana, Hanuman is the real hero, not Rama, Sita. They all become affiliated characters, but Hanuman is the central piece of their Ramayana. So therefore, even the Javanese Ramayana has their own heroes that are, who we do not really perceive as the central piece of our story. Um, Cambodia has the same, and Laos also. But now Laos, Brunei, those kinds of countries are losing their connectivity with with the Ramayana and Indian roots. You just see occasional images here and there. You don't see them as enforced as they used to be even 25, 30 years ago, where I used to travel a lot to those countries to perform. The reason for Buddhist imagery replacing our Hindu gods and iconography is the same as invaders and believers do when they are in power in any situation, in any socio-political situation. So I guess as and when the socio-political situation changes, you also see the cultural imagery and the cultural reinforcements of that particular, regime being replacing the old cultural reinforcements. So I suppose that's one of the reasons it happens. And I can I also respond to her? Yeah, sure. Okay. So, Buddhist art and its role in cultural unity. A lot of what you said, the preamble, was what the already converted to the arts already know. The role of arts, the role of culture in reinforcing relationships, in harmonizing, in reinforcing your own identity and telling you who you are on a world stage. That's the primary object of art and culture, that you understand who you are when you walk the world stage. And the rest of it comes as an extension of it. Mandalas are a very, very, very Hindu, um, you know, in the realm of Hinduism, and in a very strong way. Our tantras, our yantras, whatever you see, the imagery of the mandala is very, very strong, has very strong resonance with Hinduism. The navagrahas, the bindu, the concept of the bindu, the wheel of dharma, like you said, or the wheel of parva chakra, the wheel of existence. I have had the privilege of close association with some of the Buddhist groups in our country, and their Avalokiteshvara, their Maitreya, their Bhairava, they're all extensions of our own gods. So Buddhism, according to me, in my very, very perfunctory and pedestrian, way of thinking, is an extension of Hinduism. And a lot of other religions, the dharmic religions that sprung from our own land, are an extension. They probably were, reacting to certain prescriptions and restrictions which our own religions reinforced. And so they may have just kind of, diverted away from some of them, but most of them they held intact. So almost all that you're talking about, the lotus as a symbol of peace, the flower, the bee, everything that you spoke about, to me, are my own images, are images that I have grown up watching from childhood as images of culture and peace. So I don't understand when you keep saying, these things are there, and you said culture. When you spoke about mandalas and culture, you said Chinese, Christian, Islamic, Indian. Why didn't you say Hindu or Sanatana dharmic culture? I have a problem with that. I want you to say Sanatana Dharma if you don't want to say Hindu. But these are, very, 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 very strong symbols of our culture, our religion. Uh, our own, beliefs and customs and so on. And many of them, like you spoke about Buddha as being a symbol. All of us know that, and you spoke about the Met Museum. These museums like Met or Lincoln Center or Smithsonian do whatever is fashionable in that particular time or era. And let us be frank. Late 90s to now to about 2005, Dalai Lama was the most popular walking figure, in the world. So it was fashionable to have Buddhist art in Met Museum, and you would have the largest number of people coming in because they've never seen something like that before. Or you would have them in Lincoln Center. But these are not indicators to cultural expression. These are not indicators to cultural ingranation. These are not cultural, these are not indicators to what the changes that have happened and what, are the root causes and the rootedness of culture. These are museums, and museums showcase pieces, and that is their job, to showcase whatever is fashionable at that particular point in time. The image of Buddha. Of course, the image of Buddha is in all these ASEAN countries. We expect that to be there because Buddhism grew from our land and grew into, traveled to China, Japan, Korea, Cambodia. No, I'm saying it traveled. So the strongest image of that particular religion is the Buddha. And so they do have Buddhas in various forms, sitting, laughing, talking, standing, lying down. In Thailand, you have a huge Buddha lying down. Tibet, of course, you have these images. These images cannot become symbols of peace. I would then turn back to you and say, there are images of Shiva Tandava in Switzerland. Shiva doing his Nataraja pose and he's supposed, for me as a Bharatanatyam dancer, he is the whole universe. And he's also, yeah. So I'm saying that he's a symbol of world order. He's a symbol of the birth of the universe. And no, but we are a little embarrassed about talking about Lord Shiva and Vishnu.
No,
like
we are not.
happier talking about Buddha, and we are happier, And I have a problem with this. And I go to many seminars. I go to many places where people are. It's not just scholars from India, but the scholars, the Western scholars, or the Eastern scholars. They have a problem in acknowledging what we have contributed, and that seriously is my problem. Thank you.
No, but thank you so much, ma'am. But I am very happy that you mentioned Lord Shiva, because I think any form of art which propagates cultural unity is fantastic. Buddhism is just one of them, and I was talking about that. But absolutely, be it dance, be it puppetry, be it Ramayana, be it Mahabharata, any form of art that showcases your culture brings in unity. Our Lord Shiva there brings in unity there. It's not propagating, it's uniting. So thank you for talking about Lord Shiva. But since my topic was limited to the Buddha and cultural link, I've been concentrating on him. And before I began, right at the beginning, that was what I said, that it is our culture, our mythology, our basis, which is Hindu, which let a new religion thrive. Nowhere else in the world has any culture let another philosophy thrive. So I think that's the beauty of our culture and our religion.
Thank you.
Can I say something about it? Yeah.
Is it? I wanted to ask a question, ma'am,
Yeah.
because is it true that Ravana is the person who is like the hero in Sri Lanka? I didn't know that.
There are different, I think, people who are taking as Hanuman as a hero, or other characters of heroes. It's Sita can be a.
There's an epic called Sita,
So
Sita is the centerpiece.
So it is different from place to place, from time to time, from people to people. So I just wanted to talk about your talk. There are a few things. You see, when we talk about linkages through Buddhism, what I would say is that there are two kinds of waves. One is the Theravadi stream, and the other is Mahayana. If you go to Southeast Asian country, most of them are Theravadi Buddhist countries.
Other than Sri Lanka.
And there are in for example in Indonesia also you have Mahayana and Mahayani and Theravadi both. So there are both also, but major I'm talking about.
Yes.
So if you go to Thailand, there are sleeping Buddha. There are the most of the statues of Buddha are normally associated to his life. And if you go to the Mahayana country, for example, it's China, Japan, Korea, Tibet, Mongolia. No, I shouldn't say Tibet, but it's if you go to Lamaist countries or you go to East Asian countries,
you must say Tibet.
It's actually people create. It's very natural and normal to say that, but yeah. So but people create problems with that. So anyway, so there you have more bodhisattvas. There are more forms of Buddhas. For example, there is Bhaishya Guru or Amitabha, or there are so many manifestations of Buddhas. They are all in Mahayana. I have done a book actually on Buddhist manifestations of Buddhas, and I have done a number of research papers on manifestations of Bodhisattvas also, because there are hundreds and hundreds of Bodhisattvas. It's very confusing for the people to understand that why Buddha was one. But that is historical Buddha. But later on, with the development of Mahayana philosophy, there became so many Buddhas. So that is one point. Then can you show me the first slide that you showed with the stupas? One slide, yeah, pagodas you showed. Yeah, no. One is I think the middle in the between Japanese pagoda. It's not a pagoda. It's so far as I can see and identify, this is the Golden Hall of the Todaiji Monastery.
Yes,
And
yes.
this is not a stupa. It is
No,
a
ma'am.
double-story hall. It is a double-story hall from the outside architecturally, but from inside it looks single-story. And this is the largest wooden structure, wooden architecture
Yes.
all over the world, and it houses the largest Buddha, bronze Buddha of the world. So when we talk
550
about
tons.
when we
in
talk
gold.
about linkages,
Yes.
I think I would like to say that, for example, you showed some statues of Buddhas. One of them was a colossal, one or two, I don't remember how many,
Ji.
but some of them were colossal in size. So colossal Buddhas are the philosophy behind sculpting Buddha in colossal size is based on Gandavyu Sutra, and we
And
have
the
to talk
cosmic
about
rays.
the sutras.
Yes.
Yeah, this one.
Yes, this
that
one.
one there, and there. This is from Kamakura, Daibutsu's
Yes, ma'am.
son. This is from Kamakura,
Yes.
and this is from Korea. You have in Hong Kong also. So
And,
the story begins
It's
from
a
with the,
cosmic rays. And
yeah, you
how-
see the story,
Yes.
the philosophy behind colossal images of Buddha is based on the Gandavyu Sutra, and
Yes.
the first was made in Afghanistan that are destroyed,
Which was destroyed.
Banyan Buddhas,
The Banyan
and
Buddha,
later
yes.
on I did a research paper on this, the colossal Buddhas in all over East Asia, how they traveled. The philosophy travels from India to the west, the
Absolutely.
northwest, and from there to China and Japan and Korea,
From
and
Japan
then
to
in the
Korea.
modern times, and you have so many sculptures of Buddhas in colossal form in many countries. And can
it's
you please
basically
show
to
me?
trap.
Yeah.
It's basically to trap the cosmic energy,
Yeah.
and each.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
There is one slide.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry, that is one slide. Sorry, you asked. Yeah. The first one, Maitreya. This is Gandhara. The first one, the oh, that one, yeah. This is modern.
This is very contemporary, sir.
Yeah, this is
and
contemporary, yeah.
what I have actually, let me just say a few things. What I have tried to show, I mean, I would just like to clarify, like even the shrine that I showed in Russia, what I have tried to show is the unified strand that art can have. And we have taken Buddhism, any philosophy which unites, any sculpture, any painting, any scripture which unites is art, and it unites culturally. It does not specifically have to be just Buddhism or Hinduism or Christianity. The talk is how art unites culture. And that's all I've tried to show here.
That's why I'm shocked that when your presentation is on Buddhist art, and the main thing is missing, that Buddhism started somehow from India only.
So that was the first thing I said.
And
I think maybe we can have another presentation. We can have another presentation on this.
Yeah, let her say so. Let her say something. Yeah.
I've got some lot of people who have raised their hands. I'll like to go in a sequential fashion, and I'll note down your name also. You are Veena. So let me just request. Please make your comments, and then I'll ask them to, take all of them together and do it, because otherwise we will not be able to finish it. So, आपका नाम क्या? I'll just आपका नाम. I'll come to you. Mr. Rajiv Singh.
Good evening, all of you. My name is Rajiv Singh. I'm from Bhopal. Basically, I'm journalist, academician, and consultant of Sanchi University of Buddhist Indic Studies, Government of MP. And my work to establish Sanchi University is in India and abroad through branding, promotion, and deployment studies. I wanted to make Sanchi University that I wanted to establish Buddhist academic circuit and Indic academic circuit. So my question is that how can I establish Buddhist and Indic academic circuit?
Thank you for both excellent lectures. But whatever I wanted to say, much of has been said much more beautifully by Pratna Prahlad, but fortunately she has left out something for me to say. Actually, words are very powerful. She used the word extension rather than connection and rather than similarity for the Hindus. Much of the problem is because till 1920s, Buddhism was never considered an independent religion. It has always been part of the Hinduism. And I'm pointing out all the references right from 18th century writings till 1920s. Radhakrishnan's one of the best 2500 years of Buddhism published in 1962. On page third or fourth, he wrote, Buddhism is only an extension of Hinduism. Buddha was born a Hindu, lived as Hindu, and died a Hindu. That's Radhakrishnan, 1962, 25. Huh? Oh, yes. I'm coming on that. And he had reasons for that. Why Buddhism is not a religion, it's only an extension of Hinduism. The reason for this is, in order to establish any religion, first you have to demolish the religion in which you were born. It has been practiced all over the world. Buddha has never said a word against the Hinduism, number one. Number two, when Buddha takes a sannyasa, in Hindu tradition, if you want to take a sannyas, you have to have the permission. Permission of mother? No, first the permission of wife if you are married. If you are not married, then your mother's permission. And if your mother is not there, then sister's permission, meaning thereby the dependence directly on you have to permit. Buddha leaves his wife and son sleeping. I will take just 2 minutes to explain this. This is very important to understand. When he gets enlightenment, he wants to preach. Nobody, you know that nobody is willing to listen him. He said that you are runaway criminal. You are not an enlightened person. You have left your wife. You have not been permitted as per Hindu law. Buddha goes back to Kapilvastu, and it has been immortalized in Sanchi Stupa's depiction everywhere. Everybody is there on the gate, sir. I come on tears when I describe this scene on Sanchi and Ajanta. Everybody, including mother, father, everybody. In the entire Kapilvastu, there are two souls left. Only two souls. One is Yashodhara and son Rahul. These have been immortalized in Ajanta painting. Buddha is received by everybody enlightened. And Yashodhara's, all this is part of Jataka stories. Yashodhara's closest friend comes, my dear, are you not coming to receive enlightened one? Everybody is there on the gate. What she says is worth remembering. She says, he may be enlightened one to everybody. He is still my husband. I have not permitted him to become a sannyasi. I have not permitted him to become a teacher. And then painting of Ajanta shows Buddha is very tall figure, very big arrow. He is standing with a bowl, and Yashodhara is standing there begging Yashodhara to give the bowl a small little piece of copper. That means he has been permitted. Only after that episode, he comes out, then everybody becomes his disciple. And then Buddha is asked, nobody can be enlightened one until unless he has a guru. Now you tell me, who is your guru? Buddha is completely not shattered at all. He tells, what I am going to preach is what has been said by Kapil in Sankhya philosophy. I am going to restate the whole thing that. And therefore, sir, whenever you think in terms of similarity, and when you are pointing out that in the religion, they are following they are Buddhist, but they are following rituals of Hinduism, I don't see any dichotomy. For one reason, remember, Buddha is the 19th avatar of Hindus. After all, who is 19th? After Krishna. Buddha is 19th avatar. Do you think that Hindus are going to make their avatar somebody who is not part of their pantheon? And therefore, sir, what has to be very important to understand, that Hinduism being depicted as religion, you can look into the census philosophy. One reason I have been trying to understand this present Indian society, my knowledge of ancient world, how it has changed. If you read 1857 files in this archives, Why did we lose? British are writing, why did we lose? We looked after Hindus very well. We looked after the army. What happened? And the file noting says, I have got the photocopy. It says, the problem of this society is educated class, especially Brahmin. They are the ones. They are the ones who control and guide the society, and we cannot rule and we cannot divide the society until unless we demolish the exalted position of Brahmanas. And they point out who was the leader, Mangal Pandey. And they said, and these are all part of file noting, sir. And just 1 minute, I will come on what happens in census. They start working on how the entire this country's ill is creation of Brahmanas. Before that, you don't find much of in the literature. Then 60s, they formulate the census policy. And you know, in every census policy, you will have meetings, you will have criteria. Until 1931, they keep identifying groups within the Hindu society who should be separated in the census so that the independent identity is established. And the first of them go out is Sikh in 1991, not in 1963, not in 1971 or 81. And the Buddhists go out in 1911. So, and then we have stopped thinking and talking on wider canvas. And ma'am, it was excellent lecture. We have known each other for very long. But at the same time, the moment you put Hinduism, Buddhism is nothing. It's I'm Shaivite, my wife is Vaishnavite, within one family. Similarly, Buddhism status was there, sir. And secondly, very simple example, when I was working in 1970s with Professor Bibilal on Ramayana project, I had the good fortune of excavating both in Ayodhya as well as Nandigram. Nandigram excavation was conducted by me. Sir, Nandigram is the place from where Bharat ruled. He did not stay in Ayodhya. He said, this is capital, I will not stay. Something like 20 kilometers away. He stayed with Paduka. I was good fortune that Professor Lal said that you go and excavate there beside Ayodhya. Thing is that in 1955, great tragedy in Kumbh Mela took place. Jawaharlal Nehru went there and a lot of people died. There was Baghdad. Now we recorded. I have got the recording. Bilal Sahib has recording. We recorded the episode. What happened? Will you believe within 20-kilometer radius, there are 4 versions of the same episode within 20 years. 55, we are talking about 75, 76. 3 versions. Basic thing is core remains the same. Central characters remain the same. As long as we have that, I don't think we need to worry about this, sir. In larger perspective, that is what I will say. And at the end, I would like to point out that Buddhism has become a political tool today. Even taking full name, Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar, has become a problem. So Buddhism became, but we have to realize, I'm not surprised. Indonesia, Malaysia, Bali, they have all retained their culture. There is a statement by late Dostum, who was in Afghanistan, leader of Pashtun. He was asked by a British journalist, you are Muslim, and so also others are Muslim in Afghanistan, why are you fighting? He said, look, I am Muslim for the last 1,000 years, but I am Pashtun for last 5 millennia. Therefore, the identity, cultural identity, ethnic identity always is more important than superimposed religion. And I'm very happy, sir, that some of the Eastern South Asian states have retained despite being converted into Islam, which has not happened in any other. Anywhere Islam went and Christianity, the first thing was there, the entire population forgot its past. So that we need to do something, what she was saying, and I agree again, I agree everything. We need to do something more closer. But my suggestion, I had spoken to you earlier also, we must not say we are big brothers to them. Nobody likes to hear that in today's world. Buddhists are extension because they are.
आपने argument दिए हैं, but how will a Buddhist or
that is where I was coming to. This was for internal discussion, for our understanding how Buddhism is not separate from Hinduism. This is for our consumption. But what I have always said is, rather than saying Buddhism, Hinduism, and this, one of the best way to articulate it is shared heritage.
Yes, absolutely.
That is one of the best words. Whenever we talk that we have a shared heritage. We have who came earlier, who came later. This most of the Ramayana. Oral tradition is always earlier than the written tradition everywhere, and it takes quite a few hundred years to get written down, because until unless it spreads very wide, becomes very popular, nobody is going to put that in writing. So, sir, I mean, VIF can do a lot in this field, and shared heritage. I have been in touch with some of the Thais and other universities in other places.
In fact, sir, as
So,
far
thank you.
as leaving, when Buddha left, that is a lot, that particular emotion, as far as women go. Maithili Sharan Gupt wrote a beautiful poem, Opalamb. I'm sure most of you would agree with me that when he left, his poetry, he talks about the lady left behind and her emotions in Opalam. And I will just say one stanza which I think captures what Sir was saying about how he left in the quiet of the night. She says, Jai, and this is an Indian woman's thoughts that though he has left, she says, Sakhi, वे मुझसे कह कर जाते.
I will tell you the exact line. सखी चोरी चोरी गए, यही बड़ा आघात, वो मुझसे कह कर
जाते. And still she says, sir, the last verse, which is so beautiful, and it is the epitome of womanhood in India. And she says, जावे सिद्धि पाए सुख से, दुखी न हो ये जन के दुख से, उपालंब दूं मैं किस मुंह से, आज अधिक वे भाते, सखी वे मुझसे कह कर जाते. So I think our poetry, our writings capture everything, all aspects of Buddhism per se. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Let me just
Can I make it clear? I'm sorry to interrupt. You see, there are many versions of Buddha's biography. So according to one, you can say he didn't inform his wife, but according to another, she was already enlightened. She knew that Buddha is going to leave. She didn't want to be a hurdle in his path, so that he could leave comfortably.
Yes, ma'am, I've read that writing too.
That's true. Enlightenment is true, but tradition, personal enlightenment, and the social tradition.
She already knew. Yes. According to one version, she already knew.
Shani, let me just go to the other review, and then I'd like to finish it at 5 o'clock. So please make it brief. Binaji.
Answer already by one. I was just curious to know if, I mean, since Buddhism and Hinduism are so closely linked, they are obviously linked. What happened? I mean, why did Buddhism almost sort of disappear from India? And there was no, only in the last 100 years we've discovered and excavated all this. It was just a curious interest.
Abdi, sorry.
Okay, now I don't have any question, but I just want to understand from ma'am that from some studies in Thailand, like I have been to Thailand several times, there are some controversy about Ramkian also. Like some people say that it was rewritten in by fourth Rama. So I just want to know your understanding for.
Chali, so I think if there's no further questions, I'll request them to take 2-3 minutes each and then wrap it up for us.
First, Mr. Rajiv, you asked about giving a name to the studies center. I would suggest that it can be Indo-Asian Studies Center. You want to use the word Buddhist or Buddhist? So it can be Indo-Asian Buddhist Studies Center. Or you want to make it shorter? I think Indic or Indo-Asian? Indic. So it can be Indic Buddhist Studies. Very simple. And then Professor Makhanlal, whatever you said, it was we all accept it. Yes, of course. There was one, you said avatar. You see, most of the Hindus, they say Buddha was an avatar, but Buddhists don't accept it. Buddhists get furious about it.
Sir,
and even the
doesn't matter, but by 5th century AD, 1500 years
Yeah.
before, it was, well, today Buddhists accept or don't accept, but 3rd, 4th century BC, Buddha had become avatar of Hindu.
Yeah, but I'm talking about their perspective, what their reaction, because as you said, Buddhism has become a political tool. Yes, of course, in Maharashtra and Gujarat, so many Buddhists are there, millions of Buddhists. I ask them about what they chant, what sutra they follow, what do they do. They know nothing. They say, no, we don't know Buddha, we know Ambedkar. So those Buddhists, I think that we should do something to enlighten them about Buddhism. So they should. They do nothing about. They very openly say no Buddha. We only know this. Ambedkar. Yes, you asked, Miss Beena asked about why Buddhism has disappeared from India. You see, in India, there are many reasons for it. Number one is the destruction of Buddhist monasteries, and universities. Buddhism
by these invaders.
By the invasions, because Buddhism did not have any ritual. Why Hinduism is surviving after so many, I'm not going to, all about the invasions and destructions and all these things. Why? Because there is something that is in our everybody's house. There is something related to everybody. For example, in Buddhism there is no ritual for not proper, I think, for marriage, for childbirth, only for death ritual. There is only just so it never became a part of day-to-day life. All those who became Buddhists, they were going to the monasteries, becoming bhikshus and all this. So once the monasteries were destroyed, and not a single monastery in India stands. So how could it survive? And then
That's the only reason, or there could be some other reasons.
one is ritual, and the other is destruction of monasteries. You see, if I just give you one example, in Japan, for example, getting married is so expensive if you go to a Shinto shrine or a Buddhist shrine, but they go to a church and they don't mind becoming Christians. So there should be something should be done by us to have something, to have some kind of a ritual, so that, for example, in Mongolia, this youth, they said, oh, we don't have any religion, we are not religious. For example, I had a guide in China once, and she was Mongol, and I said, are you Buddhist? She said, yes ma'am, I'm not Buddhist, but my parents are Buddhist. I said, oh, I wanted to know just detail about it, that why her parents are Buddhist and not she. She said, my mother says, if you don't have time for chanting sutras, then you can't be a Buddhist. So there are many misconceptions. Because of that, Buddhism has faded and is still fading. We have to do research on this also. I go to many Buddhist organizations and platforms, and I say we have to do research on this aspect also, that why Buddhism is just not disappearing, but gradually people are becoming Christians. They don't mind following some other religion. So and you talked about Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh. I think you should have another talk about it. Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, how they have established linkages of India with all the Asian countries. And how these divine beings are transformed in different pantheons. For example, I delivered a talk on transformation of Shiva in Japanese Buddhist art. How did in Tibetan art, how different deities are transformed. We talk about the deities, manifestations of devis, the power. Then you have to see in and so many other. We have to so many we have to see. And Buddha was a Hindu throughout his life. He never say he was a Buddhist, because during his life there was no Buddhism. He was born as a Hindu, he was trained as a Hindu, he was educated as a Hindu, and what he did was, all the philosophy existing at that time was placed in front of people in their language, the way they could understand precisely and very clearly, and he gave new terminology. And he gave new terminology. For example, paramita. We don't have those kind of terms in Hinduism. So he gave new terminology to the same philosophical concepts that already existed. Okay. Yeah, and you were worried about. Yes, of course, India is not paying much attention for the linkages. We don't have many experts. Whenever I organize any international conference on anything, for example, I organized a conference on Atisha and Kumarajiva. People ask me, who is Atisha? Who is Kumarajiva? They know nothing about it. So we Indians are ignorant because this is not a part of our education system, not our curriculum. At any level we should do it. We should do it. I did long ago, Professor Makalalji, for the this open schooling institute of open schooling. I wrote chapters on India's culture and cultural linkages with all these countries, and this should be, I think we should make it a part slowly in the school, in colleges. There should be something should be taught. Otherwise
You know,
we
in
don't,
2002,
we can't work on
you know, in
linkages.
2002, for the first time in Indian syllabus,
Hmm.
the books I wrote for NCRT, these were the things included for
I see.
class 6 and 11th,
Mhm.
which was not liked and so much was hue and cry. This has to come back to primary and secondary school, sir, because where 80% of the population doesn't go beyond high school, for rest of the life they carry what they have studied till high school. And that is why in 2002, when I was asked to prepare the textbook for NCRT, all these were included, separate chapters, not interspersed here and there, very focused ones.
Yeah, I also wrote on country by country, and it is still there as a part of their syllabus. There are many, I think, in future. Yes, please. Yes, we have to finish. Yeah, yeah. Sorry, please. Yeah.
I'll start with Sir sitting there, who I think missed the initial introduction of what I spoke. I began with the fact that Buddhism came into being in India, and it only did that because of the democratic space that India gives to any new culture, any new idea. And that itself says a lot about our culture. When it is, whether it is Hinduism, whether it is Dharma, whether it is Hindutva, our culture is a culture of peace. And because of this peace, every other culture, religion, philosophy thrives in this land. And this entire work talk, at least of mine, was only to follow the thread of how art can actually foster peace. There is a lot to be done, and as Professor Lal said very correctly, which I had noted down as well, the important things are only three. One, you have to have a curriculum, sir, as you said very correctly. Students have to learn the origins of Buddhism, or mainly they have to learn about our culture. And our culture teaches us tolerance. No other culture teaches this kind of tolerance. And it is this tolerance that leads every religion that comes here. The invaders come and go, but our culture doesn't go anywhere, like ma'am said. And that is the strength of our culture. And that is exhibited in art. Oral traditions, like Sir said, any form of art, dance, like ma'am knows. What does she do? She's an ambassador of our culture in a form that people understand. So it's infotainment. And that is what art does for our culture. And I would like to say, like, it is with discussions with the intelligentsia, people who matter, people who understand, the policymakers. If we put a point across and it is received, half our battle is won. And for the general public, if not exhibitions, if we even have workshops like IGNCA is now doing, people come there, they learn. And I'm sure when they see something which is exciting, happening, and beautiful, they learn more. So that is why, for me, art is a very important tool towards cultural unity. Thank you.
I think Arpita wanted to make a point.
I just wanted to, a lot has already been said, but I just wanted to make a few focused, sharp observations. One big difference between the Buddhism of Buddha and that of Ambedkar is that during the Buddha's time, becoming a Buddhist did not involve giving up every Hindu belief. You know, you could still continue to believe in Hindu gods,
Whereas this is in the constitution of Ambedkar's Buddhism, that you become a Buddhist means that you no longer believe in any Hindu god. This is a very important shift which took place between the ancient and the modern Buddhism. And the second thing is that, so far as I understand, the only difference between Buddha and the Upanishadic teaching is that the Hindu philosophy, they accept the Ved as a Praman, Shabda Praman, all the 6 schools of Hindu philosophy, which means that if Shruti says something, Ved has said something, then it has to be true. And then we'll find out. We'll apply our logic, we'll try to experience it. Buddha said, I'm not going to look that way. I'll find out from the scratch. That is one big difference. That is the reason why the Buddhists say that we don't accept the Veda. But what in effect Upanishad said and Buddha said is in effect the same thing. There's also a debate on the Buddhist idea of Shunyavad. People commonly translated it as nothingness. But Chandradhar Sharma has said that it is not nothingness and it is more avachya, that is indescribable by the 4 categories of the intellect. The Dalai Lama himself says that Shunyavad is not nothingness. So we need to go back to these early days of the interaction between Hindu and Buddhist philosophies and look at it from a different kind of lens. And the last point that I want to make is that Vivekananda and Nivedita, both of them have written extensively on Hindu-Buddhist relationship and development. I mean, the Buddhists may not like to hear that, but just for our understanding, because there are several insights, historical as well as from within the realm of spirituality, which could be useful to understand this relationship. Thank you.
Okay, fine. Very quick.
Yeah,
If I
please.
may, Christy Cheng from
Yes.
Taiwan. I believe myself and my husband Frank are the only 2 non-Indians here. So I'm thinking, of what I may contribute. Well, I'm from Taiwan, but I actually become a Buddhist in Hawaii. So I've been traveling around the world. I know the Buddhist diaspora very well. So I'm feeling that, I think it would be wise not to say that the Buddhism is an extension from Hinduism. Of course, like the shared heritage, I think it's good to say that we have the shared heritage. And, to say it's an extension would be sort of like negating the fact that there are so many, the Buddhist population all over the world who do consider Buddhism as their faith, which is very distinctive from Hinduism. Most of them would not be able to connect directly with Hinduism or India, although many of them have tried to come back to visit the sacred Buddhist sites in India. And some of them are very enthusiastic in trying to help revive Buddhism in India. So I think it would be, I think I'm very happy to see this discussion, happening here, and just a little bit to contribute from my personal perspective, from the Buddhist perspective. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't want to make any comment because now I have a little doubt whether culture can unite. Because I was very happy with your pitch in the beginning, but now with so many debates, and no, I think cultures can still unite and they should be unite, but cultures can also divide. I mean, let's not because आप कुछ कहना चाह रहे हैं?
See, if you're looking for cultures to unite, we have to look at the commonality and not who started it and where it started. That is past. What is common in all of them is the spiritual thread. And I've heard this in one of the talks, I think, given by Sri Sri in the UN. He says, religion is the skin and the fruit is spirituality. And he says, many of us are stuck with the skin without the fruit. Now, if you look at the fruit, it is the same in all. Why do we go to this? Why do we go to a Buddhist a stupa? To get peace. Why do we go to a temple? To get peace. So there are a lot of things. Why do they promote Ramayana for so many years? What is good about it that is coming? It is Purushottam Ram. It is to have a good king. It is to have good rules. It has to have good thoughts. This is common. It doesn't matter who started it. You started it, okay. But these are the things that we should be harping on. And uh, like she said, it is your, you have the same icons. You have Shiva's icon here, here. Like he said, this is where we say we are from the same heritage. And then we have the same values. And we have the same path of spirituality. And like she rightly said, you have to downplay where it started. You started it, okay, you started it. But this is common. Maybe that is the push we should take.
That is the trust, the commonality.
Art will bind, religion will bind, everything will bind if you're looking for common strings. And spirituality is the common string. Look inwards, meditate, share. I mean, these are the thoughts we can pick up from all of these and share.
Can I say something about this? Because transcendence in life is the basic principle of all the Indic religions, whether it's Hinduism, whether it's Buddhism, or whether it's Jainism. And it is reflected everywhere in all the scriptures, in all the architectural forms, in whatever you see in the forms of art. So transcendence in life, because as you showed the wheel of life, actually it is Shad Yoni. Shad-yoni. So we all have all these bad and good qualities in this 5 feet body. I have the demonic qualities also. I have the animal qualities also. These are actually 6 levels. So Bhuta, Pishacha, Preta, and Danav, Asur, and Pashu, and Manushya, and then you become a Deva. Because of your good qualities, because of the acceptance of transcendental values, a human being can be divine in this life itself. So that is common in all. That is there in Buddhism also, in Hinduism also.
And we are all looking for peace. So whatever gives us peace.
So I think probably culture is what you make of it.
Yes.
How you
And you
can-
experience it through art.
You can, no, not in that sense. What I meant was that there are uses and misuses of culture.
Yes, true.
And how you use it. I mean, it can be a vehicle for unity, peace, etc. But the same symbols can inflame emotions. People fight over these. I mean, we are seeing it happening in the Middle East, the Israelis, and this, and this can happen anywhere. So there is also this politics. This is also the very limited minds sometimes which are confronted with such things, how they interpret it. Now, in fact, what the question that has arisen in my mind, and which I don't want to now take it, but I'll just mention it. Maybe we'll have another round of discussions on this. You know, you raised a very interesting question. Why did you call it Indian culture and not Sanatan Dharma? So that question has not been properly answered. Though I think we sort of went around beating the bush, and there was something there. But in this lies a lot of problems also in this country. You know, this, she talked about tolerance, she talked about peace, etc. But she didn't quite exactly say. I think I take the point that you're making, that we must take pride in what we have and call, you know, a spade is spade. So if there is an origin, and this is what, you know, if you're going back 3,000 years ago, there was not so much of diversity. There was some culture was developing, and that is your Sanatan Dharma, Sanatan culture, call it Hinduism, etc. But as we come closer, then there are, you know, a lot of layers are added, and fissures, layers, whatever. So then it becomes very difficult for people to, because you carry a lot of baggage. That way, actually, even today, we have this debate about what is the name of this country. I mean, the Supreme Court just if PIL was filed, what is the name of this country? Is it Bharat? Is it India? Is it Hindustan? Is it this? Is it that? Bharatvarsha, etc., etc. And you open the debate, people start fighting, and there may be loss of life also. So that aspect is also there. But this question about that India or even Hinduism absorbing everything, that is also, I think, a part of it. I do not know whether there is one pure Hinduism. Now we are seeing this Lingayat controversy. आप लिखेंगे शायद you will go back to the documents and prove, and then somebody else will go to documents and prove the opposite. But the fact is that this over 5,000 years you have absorbed so much and you have evolved so much. It's not an old, recent thing that you can retain that purity. So it's a lot of things have added. But we are talking about art here. We are talking about art and culture in the art and culture sense. That there is a Ramayana. रामायण के ऊपर भी झगड़ा हुआ था ना 2011 में दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी में शायद कुछ हुआ था. हाँ, अब मेनी वर्जन्स ऑफ रामायण को आप कैसे निगेट कर सकते हैं भाई? हाँ, अब वो सारा तो नहीं. अगर आप साउथ ईस्ट एशिया के रामायण में पढ़े, मैंने पढ़ा है वो जो आपका नहीं, बट द पॉइंट इज कि उसके ऊपर लड़ाई तो नहीं करनी चाहिए ना. पॉइंट ये है कि वो तो झगड़े हो गए, पॉलिटिक्स हो गई दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी में. और जबकि मैंने वो पढ़ा, वो दैट आई थिंक इंटरनेट, ऑन द इंटरनेट आई फाउंड दैट ऐसे, एक्चुअली इट्स अ ब्यूटीफुल ऐसे, द वे ही हैज रिटन इट, बहुत ब्यूटीफul essay, and I learned a lot. It's written so beautifully, and it describes a particular scene there about how, in the last days of Rama, and when Lakshman is standing there, all that scene, and then Hanuman goes to the Patal. It's a lovely, lovely thing. So we can take it, it's our sensitivity.
We should accept.
The point is that our Hindu sensibility is so fragile. Now that is the question that we have to ask. But that is, I think, the context there becomes political, the context becomes social, the context power politics. No, I think it's more than that. Emotions is more than that.
No, I'm saying it's all that because right now you don't know where you stand. I mean, with all the contradictions and all the, the face-offs that are happening, because are you so tolerant that you will accept attack from every quarter? Are you so absorbent? Are you so accepting that you will accept everything from?
No, there is perhaps a lack of confidence at this point.
No,
that may be a lack of confidence this time. What will you do with all these tribal cultures that we have in India? We'll call them Hindus. What will you do? I think my point is that the Hindu culture is strong enough and it's just built upon that in basically absorbing, while without losing the. आप सभी ने कहा कि रामायण सब अलग है लेकिन कोर सेम है. I think exactly the same goes for Hindu also. So it's ये अगर ये सारी डिबेट वगैरह नहीं होती एंड अगर हिंदू बुद्धिज्म यहाँ सर्वाइव कर गया होता तो इट वुड हैव बिकम वन मोर उपनिषद. एक और उपनिषद बना देते हैं कि इतने बने हैं हमारे यहाँ, इतने आपके 6 आपने कहा ना वो हैं, तो 109वां बन जाता है. Another Buddhism. What about Jainism now? We have not discussed Jainism. Equally great religion, equally great philosophy, equally great history, probably slightly older. Perhaps slightly older than...
Slightly. Adinath's reference comes in Rig Veda, and Adinath is the first teacher of Buddhism. So that goes to Rig Veda.
So there you are.
University, you have the...
Hey, we are actually going to the source. Source में ये थोड़े जब 2500-3000 साल पहले की हम बात कर रहे हैं, जिसमें कि लैंग्वेज आई, थोड़ा प्रबुद्धि आई और लोग करने लगे, उस सोर्स में बहुत कुछ कॉमन रहेगा, लेकिन 3000 में बहुत डेवलप भी करेगा. सो दिस इज दी. अब आप गंगा यमुना और सरस्वती का ले लीजिए. पहले वो कहते हैं कि यमुना गिरती थी सरस्वती में, अब वो गंगा ने यमुना को कैप्चर कर लिया, तो अब लड़ाई झगड़ा हो जाएगा क्या? सो आई थिंक these are the original sources, and that's why you find so much similarity. And that is what I entirely agree with you. It's a beautiful word you are given of shared culture, shared heritage, and that is what we should. Usme all the civilization come, and probably that is what if you translate and give one word to Vivekananda and Nivedita, probably this is what it will amount to. This is what it will amount to. तो ये थोड़ा सा हमें वो देखना है. And maybe we'll have one day a sober discussion on what is Indian culture.
So I think sober.
And talking about Vivekananda, he used the word acceptance in opposition to tolerance. He said, Hinduism is not tolerant. We are accepting.
We accept.
Yeah. We are accepting. It's a better word.
Just one moment. I mean, अगर आप वेदांता में विश्वास रखते हैं, which is the core of, तो वो तो देख रहे हैं divinity हर चीज में. वो आपने लिंक बना दिया सबके साथ, फिर तो कोई बचा ही नहीं ना. That is the only आपने कहा shared culture etc. Shared on what basis?
Sir,
Shared basis on the basis of this divinity.
Shared heritage use करने का एक सबसे बड़ा advantage होगा. We will look for common features which unite us. Everything else will get marginalized. Core will get to us.
Yeah, this is how I started my talk, that Ramayana is our common cultural heritage.
I want to make one practical suggestion. We were discussing amongst ourselves also. I want to do a seminar on Vasudev Kutumbakam. So you please come prepared. We will have a discussion. What do you mean by this? And how? Look at it in the positive sense. Something. Okay, we have international yoga in India, etc. But actually, still, the philosophy yoga is not mentioned. It's just one great show. The show is fine, which is also extremely important. लेकिन इन सारे rich literature में क्या कुछ हम निकाल सकते हैं? Can we take something out of it and then say this what Vasudev Kutumbakam means or Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina means? Because no religion should have any opposition to it. That world is a family. That there should be peace, happiness everywhere, and people approach it. वो क्या है? एकम सब. हाँ. तो ये अगर 3-4 ideas, if you can take these 3-4 ideas and bring it to a discussion at the global level, but we'll have to do proper deep research into this. But banner could be this. So you think about it. If you think that this is possible to have this kind of a seminar, maybe 15-20 लोगों को हम बुला के एक workshop type करते हैं. Everybody comes, reads a paper, gives some ideas, etc. आप भी जरा सोचिए इसके बारे में. आप भी सोचिए. And you can approach it from a philosophical side, from art, culture, whatever, and give me some ideas, and we'll be happy to, build some activity around this. So, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you.